Good morning. 2 weeks ago, we were driving to Boston when my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, so I didn't answer it. A minute later, it rang again, same number. I answered it. It was Rich Briggs. "Michael, I've got some sad news," he began. "Roy died early this morning." Like everyone here, we knew that Roy was struggling, but I certainly didn't think his death was imminent. The news was a real punch in the gut. And so we gathered to this place that Roy loves so much. We gather as a community of friends and family that knows grief never ends, but it changes. It's a passage, not a place to stay. Grief is not a sign of weakness nor lack of faith. It is the price of love. And everyone has paid love's great price. Now, if we could script our days, if we could really script our days, Roy would have woke up this morning in Florida and headed out to his boat. I checked it, 72 in Florida this morning. And then maybe he'd have called Nancy later in the afternoon, but we don't get to script our days, so here we are. We gather to do a few things, certainly to give voice to our sorrow and sadness, to be with people who loved Roy and who can help us carry our pain. But most of all, we come here this morning to celebrate a remarkable, extraordinary person, a man who loved life, who lived with purpose and passion, who was anxious to get the very most out of every day. So let us do all things appropriate for such a day as this. And when evening comes, let us do what we should do every night, raise a toast to his memory. Amen. And we'll open by singing hymn number 173, "You Have Come Down to the Lakeshore." please be seated and join me in a word of prayer. Even with sad hearts, we gather thankful for the gift of life. From the moment of birth to the moment of our last breath, we live amidst the wonder and beauty of all life and marvel at the gift of what it means to be fully human, fully alive. Today, we are particularly thankful for the gift of Roy Carson's life, a gift to us and so many others in our world. We're grateful for the gift of love, for the wonder of human relationships, the ability to know another and to be known, to be accepted, to live in the depths of meaning. Today, we particularly thank you for the love we knew and received from Roy, and the love we could offer him in return. Grant that each of us may hold on to shining moments of memory, that we may carry these in our hearts as a candle, a companion in our darkness. And we believe even in times of great sadness, there is room for laughter. May we remember that the joy that comes from loving in friendship remains with us. For it is through each of us that Roy's memory stays alive, that what he stood for, what he believed in, will be carried forth. And so today we remember his hands, his hard work, his determined spirit, his love of life. And then we ask that you would enfold Nancy and Jen and Dan and all who loved Roy in your love. May our presence support and comfort them. This is our prayer. Amen. And then in moments like these, people of faith have looked to the Scriptures, and a great psalm of hope and comfort and promise comes from the familiar words of the 23rd Psalm. Please join me in reading it. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And Dan Carson will do our second scripture passage.
This kind of sucks. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to throw away stones, and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to throw away. A time to tear, maybe it's tear, I don't know. And a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time for war, and a time for peace.
I'm a little froggy this morning, so cross your fingers. Roy, I'll try to do it well for you. Somewhere out there, beneath the pale moonlight, someone's thinking of me and loving someone saying a prayer that we'll find one another in that big somewhere out there. And even though I know how very far apart we are, it helps to think we might be wishing on the same bright star. And when the night wind starts to sing a lonesome lullaby, it helps to think we're sleeping underneath the same big sky. Somewhere out there, if love can see us through, then we'll be together somewhere out there, out where dreams come true. And even though I know how very far apart we are, it helps to think we might be wishing on the same bright star. And when the night winds start to sing a lonesome lullaby, it helps to think we might be thinking on the same bright star. Somewhere out there, if love can see us through, then we'll be together somewhere out there, out where dreams come true.
I first met Roy about 14 years ago when the church used to face this way. He and Nancy had come on a Sunday morning to check out the church where their son was going to get married. Now, at the time, I knew they went to St. James, and I knew, too, that it's unethical for a minister to steal sheep. So I couldn't encourage them to start coming here, but when sheep of another flock decide they like your pastures better, you simply whisper a quiet thank you. Since that fateful Sunday, Roy and Nancy have been so involved in the life of this church. And that's the way Roy lived, giving back, looking for ways to make the world a better place. He did that years ago with his service in the Army, later through his commitment to the Rotary and all the churches he attended. He was never a spectator, always engaged. And that's the best way to live, eager, looking for ways to make a difference, to use your gifts to enrich the lives of others. And then he was a gift giver. If you were in his large circle of love, he delighted in finding just the perfect gift. He was generous to the very core of his being, always going the extra mile, thoughtful and other-centered. Since Roy's death, Amazon stock has taken a huge hit. He probably was their best customer. Day after day, you'd see the UPS or the FedEx driver stopping by to make a delivery. So next time you order something, maybe even later this afternoon, close your eyes and think of Roy doing just that. And then he was gifted with his hands. I don't know if he had a favorite Bible verse, but here's the one he lived every single day of his life. Whatever your hands find to do, do with all your might. And whether he was working on someone's teeth or making a stained glass window, a Tiffany lamp, or a shaker box, he was a talented craftsman who loved sharing what he made. And then next time you go on a trip, someone's going to have to step up. Roy was the planner, the great organizer, the list maker, who had to have an itinerary. I'll bet sometimes you found his need to have a plan a bit annoying. But now that he's gone, I'm guessing you'll miss his attention to detail. I hope, too, like Roy, you'll be a lifelong learner, ever ready to meet any challenge. Getting his captain license when he was in his mid-60s was quite an accomplishment, and he was so proud of it. So finally, learn from him. Have goals and dream big dreams. Live in love with your whole heart. And if you do those things, your life, like his, will be worthy not only of remembrance, but of celebration for years to come. So now I just invite you to close your eyes. Let an image, a memory come to mind. But don't simply build a shrine in your heart to his memory. Do what he did. Live the good life. Amen.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
It is a wonderful world made a little bit more wonderful because of Roy Carson's. And now Dan Sullivan will share some thoughts with us.
I'm taking the railing. I didn't want to make a mess going up those stairs. Good morning, everyone. I need a little space myself. First of all, Nancy and her family would like to thank everyone for coming today. It means a lot to them. Roy and Nancy came to Laconia in 1974, and I met them shortly thereafter. We had a mutual friend, Dennis Ackerman, who worked next door to Roy in the One Mill Plaza. And Roy and Nancy and Sheila and I became close friends quickly. Shortly thereafter, we introduced Roy to our Tuesday night game of poker. Oh, did we have fun. We played every Tuesday night except in the summertime for almost 40 years. I asked Roy one day, when I first got to know him, Roy, you know, you're a big city slicker from New York. What are you doing in a little old town called Laconia? He said, you know, there was a guy named Greg Harriman who owned a barber shop in downtown Laconia on Main Street called the Razor's Edge. And he introduced me to Laconia. And Roy told me, you know, you can learn a lot of things about a community by going to a barber shop. And he said, I got more haircuts that year before I found Laconia. And this is how he and Nancy decided on Laconia, was from the barber shop. Roy and Nancy had so many great family vacations with Jen and Dan as they grew up. The den, we used to always go to Roy's house for poker. The den was covered with pictures of all of the trips. Whether it was a cruise or a sailing trip, they had all of these wonderful times together. He also loved the water. Whether it was Lake Winnipesaukee, it could have been Loon Pond. He loved the water. In the summertime with his family, he would spend time on Lake Winnipesaukee, and in his later years with their friends Rich and Jan Briggs, they spent on Mark Island. And as was mentioned earlier, after he retired, he had a little house down in Punta Gorda, and not a little boat. And he continued his boating skills in the Gulf of Mexico. Not quite done. He worked very hard. He was always in the office early in the morning, and he was a morning person, as we all know, to a fault at sometimes. He always told me, I said, Roy, you've got Wednesdays off, you only work till 5 o'clock, you got the life of Riley. He said, for every hour I work on a patient, I have 1 hour extra preparing for that patient. So he did work a lot of hours. And his office was a generation ahead of everybody. He treated his entire staff like family. They all worked very hard, but they had great staff outings, whether it was office boat rides in the summertime on the lake or overnight stays in Boston to see a play. They did a lot of things together. And as the Reverend mentioned earlier, presents. Didn't he love to buy presents? Oh, and if you got a present, you got a nice present. He took such good care of his staff. He always had birthday presents for them, anniversary presents, and Christmas was out of the park every year. And for the patients, there were pinball machines, there were every electronic game known to man, and he would have the office always decorated in the latest fad of sports. He had all of the special jerseys and everything for the kids. And he always treated those patients with care and respect. I got 2 or 3 stories for you that are going to tell you the kind of person Roy really was. And I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but when he decided to retire, he put an ad in some publication that was a dental publication that his practice was for sale. And he found a nice young man to buy the practice. So they were negotiating the sale, and he went to New York City to finalize a deal with this gentleman. So naturally, they went out for dinner, and as they were talking, the waiter did something that this guy didn't like, and he dressed the waiter down. And that didn't sit very well with Roy. So they finished their dinner, And the guy thought everything was all hunky-dory. Roy got up from the dinner table, shook his hand, and said, I won't be selling my business to you. The way you treat staff and the way you treat these waiters, I'm afraid you'll treat our staff and our patients that way, and I won't have any of it. So thank you and goodbye. And he left, and he started the trek all over again, and he ended up selling it to Dr. Kennel, who still has it. Oh, you mentioned gadgets. Huh. This guy, he had everything. Everything. I don't know where he put it. Good thing he bought a bigger house, because that house on the Forest was chock-a-block full. And he was so very creative. He did special albums for people on their 65th birthday or 60th birthday or 40th birthday, and the work and the art that went into it was just unbelievable. He could do almost anything. And boy, didn't he love this technology age, as the Reverend just mentioned. He had to buy everything first. Number one. He was the first guy in New Hampshire that had a VHS machine. And he had plenty of DVDs when they came out. And I'll tell you, if Netflix was around when he was there, they would have gone out of business. Because he didn't rent movies, he bought them. And he'd have that closet in the front room full of VHS movies from floor to ceiling. Ah, he was something. He was something. Roy and I played golf on Saturday mornings for probably 25 years. Ah, did we have fun. Breakfast was at 6 o'clock, and we had a table, big round table of 8 or 10 guys, and we'd all sit there and jaw back and forth and have laughs, and then we'd tee off at 7:17. And Roy used to say he had more fun at breakfast than we had at golf, and we had an awful lot of fun at golf. The Saturdays included Roy and myself, some people from your past, I'm sure, Max Wakeman, Dennis Ackerman's dad, Howard, and in later years, Butch Purley and my brother Kevin. And then there was our poker group. We liked to be called Riffle Inc. That was what we were. The poker game lasted almost 40 years without any serious arguments, if you can believe that. The only thing you needed to get into that game besides money was a thick skin. We always played at Roy's house, whether it was in the cellar, at the Forest, or in the later years when we dressed up a little bit down at the boathouse. The reason we played at Roy's was because Roy had Wednesdays off and we played Tuesdays. So that means Roy could have a cocktail Tuesday night, or maybe 2. And he had this plastic glass that was about this big and about that big around, and it always had vodka in it and whatever else happened to be there. Cranberry juice, Powerade, whatever it was, that was what we did on Tuesday nights. The zings flew all the time. Many nights you needed a seatbelt just to hang on to the game. Roy, in both places, true story, Roy had a bell, and he always had the bell near his seat. He always sat in the catbird seat. He didn't win a lot of money, but he always sat there. And whenever you'd have a good zing, he'd reach over and ring the bell. And you didn't get a bell every night, but you got a lot of bells over the 40 years. Oh. Roy was also, as we all know, a very, very caring individual. If you were trying to raise money for a local charity, the first guy you went to was Roy. And he always gave you money with one caveat. Don't tell anybody where you got it. Excuse me. As time went on, he would give away other things. He had when he couldn't sail anymore, he had a small sailboat. And instead of trying to sell the sailboat, he gave it to a young man who was just starting out. he had a heart as big as gold. I don't know if anybody read the obituary in the local paper, but in the at the website of Wilkinson Bean, the obituary was naturally there, and there's a guest book. And there was a gal who epitomized the Roy Carson I knew. Her name is Mrs. Miller, and her husband was a fireman, and he died in a training accident 15 years ago. I don't know how long ago it was, but his daughter was a new patient of Roy's. And so Roy, being Roy, got a condolence card, wrote out the condolence card, and at the very end of it, he said, "Consider the braces paid in full." That's Roy. There are a few people here today that I would like to acknowledge. They're all in the front row. Bill Bowler. We used to call him Trumpy when Trumpy was not a swear word. They have been friends since grade school. They've grown together as families. They've shared fun together. They've shared sadness together. It's always good to see you, Bill. And Mark Simino is right next to him. Mark Simino is a former patient, as I understand it, of Roy's, who in his formative years needed some help. And Roy and Nancy were there for him. And Mark has been there for Roy and Nancy now, when they needed him most. And then there's, what do you want to call him? His brother, his twin brother, Waldo, Warren Clement. They were joined at the hip. They looked alike, they acted alike, and they did things alike. Oh, did we have fun with those guys. Oh, Nancy and Martha had the same relationship that Warren and Roy had. I do have a couple Warren stories. Some are good and some aren't so good, but they're all clean. And that's hard to do. I had to really go through the book. Anyways, we used to have a Mother's Day party in our later years. The purpose of it was that the husbands took care of the wives. We bought the food, we cooked the dinner, we served. We were supposed to clean up. I don't know how much we did of that, but we were allowed to drink. That helped get us over the hump. So one of the years we were at our house, and the functions used to include Roy and Nancy, the Clements, both Sullivans, Bruce and Sue Shumway, and the Shaws. One of the quick stories, we're making dinner. We're out in the kitchen. The girls are in the living room. And Warren's in charge of the broccoli. And so Warren's in the sink washing the broccoli, getting it all ready to cook. Now he's got the broccoli in the sink draining, and Roy is serving apps in the living room. And Roy comes back, and Roy's hands are a little sticky. So he goes over to the sink, soap and water, and washing his hands into the broccoli. And Warren comes running around the corner screaming at him. "Do you know what you did?" He said, "Don't worry about it, they'll never know." They didn't. They were like Frick and Frack. Put the two of them in the same room, and many, many times it spelled trouble. One of the stories is there was a function at Pheasant Ridge when the Straight Arrows got beat, and the majority of the city went out and celebrated. It was getting late, and it was getting near time to go, except Roy and Warren were on a roll, and you just want to get out of the way. The bar was stuck out in the corner around, and that's where you could go in and get your drinks and come back into the main room. Well, they also had some helium balloons out there. Why they were there, I don't have any idea. Anyway, these two birds are out there sucking on the helium, talking, and this went on for some, oh God, did we have fun. This went on for some time, and Martha was tired, and she's looking for Waldo, and he's looking for me, and she goes, that was the end. Warren can also get under Roy's skin. At a poker Christmas party, not too many years ago, we used to have a Christmas party and play cards at the same time. You didn't stop to eat. You weren't allowed to eat and then play. You ate and played. So Roy had brought the shrimp, the big jumbos, as you can imagine. They were frozen. So Warren says, well, I'll get them thawed out. So Warren puts them in the sink. Remember this, Warren? Warren puts them in the sink, turns on the cold water, and Warren sits down to finish the game of cards. And Roy is looking at the sink. And I think Warren forgot about the water running. It's coming over, it's coming down, it's on the floor, and Roy let one yell out of him. And it was a mess. And I don't think they talked I know they didn't talk the rest of that night. Whenever they got it together again, I don't really know. But, I'm telling you the fun they had. And finally, there's Nancy, who's been by his side for almost 60 years. She's been there for all the good days and all these days that, as Dan would say, all these days that suck. And the last few years have been very terrible, very difficult for her and for Roy. And he's in a better place. And all I can say is God bless you, Nancy, and God bless your family. As my wife keeps reminding me lately, as long as you have these kind of good memories, our good days will continue.
Thank you, Dan. That was wonderful. Did anyone else want to share a memory? Yeah, me too.
I'm known as Uncle Bill, the name they gave me, and I wanted to go over. Dan did such a nice job of Roy living in New Hampshire, but I thought I'd share with you Roy's life before New Hampshire and to give his friends an idea of what that was like. Unlike, I have a New York accent, so I hope you understand what I'm going to say. I first met Roy on a double date with our teenage girlfriends, Nancy and my late wife, Kathy. We became instant friends, and we had much in common. We were both born in April, 5 days apart. Roy is the oldest. We both loved fishing, boating, and drinking German beer. We both had a similar sense of humor. We both were Episcopalians. In early years, while in high school, Roy worked for the Bayside Marina in New York City, where I'm sure he developed his love for boats. Roy told me at the time he was not doing well in high school and questioned even going to college. His father, concerned about his future, told him, "Roy, if you want one of those boats someday, you need to study and finish school." Roy took his advice, studying hard, until he became an orthodontist. eventually owning the boats he coveted. During the early dating years, I recall one memorable day. To impress Nancy and Kathy, we had dinner at a fancy restaurant, and when it was time to pay the bill, it was higher than we anticipated. This is before we had credit cards. Due in part to the $15 bottle of wine we ordered, without asking what it cost. Afterwards, still hungry, but low in cash, we treated the girls and ourselves to 1 dozen 14-cent White Castle burgers, which we consumed in the car. So much for impressing the girls. I guess we impressed them because many double dates followed until we both married in 1965 to our teenage girlfriends, Nancy and Kathy. Shortly after Roy was drafted, due to the ongoing Vietnam War, he was stationed for a time in a town called Lawton, Oklahoma, a place known for its tornadoes, severe thunderstorms, a place where the buffalo roam, as well as the tarantula spiders. And I thank God that he moved here. Roy, of course, owned a boat that was moored in a pea soup-colored lake, which God knows what lived in it. He talked me into going water skiing, saying to me, "Don't worry about it." I did everything I could not to fall in, but Roy, being Roy, had other ideas as he maneuvered the boat in such a way that I did. I'm sure to Roy's satisfaction. So much, but don't worry about it. As time passed and Roy and Nancy moved to New Hampshire, the children came, between us 7 in all, 8 counting Mark, who was one of Roy's first patients, and today one of Roy's best friends. We became godparents, honorary aunts and uncles. The children became honorary cousins. Roy and Nancy were always great hosts, considering we all arrived in a caravan, as Jennifer once put it, that's Roy's daughter, filled to capacity with kids and all their stuff. During these visits, Roy did everything he could to keep the kids busy, which included boating, sailing, water skiing, playing games at Weirs Beach, even visiting his office, as Dan was saying, it was loaded with kid stuff. I even loved going there. And at the end of a fun-full day, my son David, who at time 8 years old, commented, "Is that all there is, Uncle Roy? What are we going to do next?" And it went on and on. My children loved visiting their Uncle Roy and Aunt Nancy. Can you blame them? Roy had a great sense of humor, as you all know. And if you're a Rotarian, you'll appreciate this story, because this is where he told it. At a Rotary meeting, when Roy was trying to lose weight, he was asked, "Roy, how much weight did you lose?" Roy answered, 100 pounds. "How did you do that, lose 100 pounds? He hesitated and said, "I lost Nancy in the parking lot." When we were in Turkey, Greece, on a sailing regatta, and Mark was with us on that trip, and my oldest son, John, Roy jokingly referred to our trip as the 3 R's: rugs, ruins, and runs. Right, Mark? Over the years, Roy and I went on annual fishing trips to Florida to catch largemouth bass on Lake Okeechobee and tarpon in the Gulf of Mexico. To keep track of how many fish we caught, Roy made me a string of beans. And to keep track of how many fish we caught, because whoever caught the most would be treated to dinner. And I'll always keep those beads as a reminder of our friendship and the many hours of fishing and fellowship we enjoyed over the years. And as Dan said, Roy was also a caring and compassionate person. Now I got to come back a little bit, but when I say Roy, I also mean Nancy. Because it was always Roy, Bill, Kathy, Roy, Nancy, they go together. When my sister lost her son, she called to let me know how much she appreciated Roy's call. offering his condolences, a call that helped her get through her grief. I don't know if I'm going to get through this one. Roy and Nancy were there for me when Kathy was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. I got through it thanks in part to my family and to Nancy and Roy. I fondly remember my last trip with her to New Hampshire and the loving and understanding care given to her by Roy and Nancy, helping her do all the things she loved to do. Now I'll get back to New Hampshire. Roy never regretted his move to New Hampshire, as he and Nancy made many new friends, many of whom I met over the years. Like Roy, they have similar sense of humor. His poker friends jokingly referred to me, as you know now, Trumpy, and Roy was referred to as one-half Doc. Roy loved this church, as he felt welcomed and well-received here. Roy especially enjoyed his friendship with Pastor Michael and his wife, Cindy. Pastor Michael, are you behind me? Thank you very much, because I feel Roy finally found his spiritual. Roy, though your presence will be sorely missed, you'll always be remembered in my heart, right here next to Kathy. Goodbye for now, my good friend. Till we meet again. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And now stand as we close this service singing hymn number 351, a wonderful hymn, I Was There to Hear Your Morning Cry. Please be seated. And again, on behalf of Nancy and her family, I thank you not only for your presence here this morning, but for all the love and support you've shown and will continue to share with them. Everyone is invited down to the fellowship hall to continue to share stories of Roy. I think there's some beer and wine, and so raise a toast. Now may we bid loving farewell to Roy Carson. We've honored his life and memory with words spoken and unspoken, with thoughts shared and kept inside. May we continue to honor him by living a life that matters, loving those entrusted to our care, treating everyone like he did, a person worthy of our reverence and respect. And may the courage of the early morning's dawning, strength of the eternal hills, the peace of the evening's ending, and the love of life be in your hearts now and forevermore. Amen.